importance of self-compassion when it comes to your eating behaviours and your body image. And this is a word that you probably hear bandied around rather a lot. Perhaps you see it, on social media. You think, well, it's a bit sort of airy-fairy type word. What does it really mean? Is it really a thing? There is consistent research findings that it is really, really beneficial, and particularly in this area. So what does it actually really mean? Well, you're being compassionate with other people. You know that when you've got compassion for someone, it's not pity, it's being on their level. You understand and you feel for them in the pain that they're going through, whether it be emotional or physical or psychological. So self-compassion is really the same thing, but it's turned inward upon yourself. So you're turning that compassion into yourself and really being kind to yourself. It really can have less negative psychological outcomes in terms of the research, but other things where it's looked at in terms of eating behaviours and body image is that there have been less negative reaction to diet breaking scenarios with restrictive eaters. That's one of the things that have come up. Fewer binge eating symptoms, improved body satisfaction, so for those who have weight or shape concerns. And it helps with that association between stress and disordered eating, and to help people be able to cope with the stress particularly. So if you use food to soothe yourself, using self-compassion as a tool can really help you reduce the stress that you feel and can have a really positive impact on your eating behaviours. So we can actually learn this as adults. It's something we can learn now. It's something that I think we should all learn if we don't give ourselves that compassion. There's three main areas that have been identified in the research in terms of self-compassion. And the first one is self-kindness. Let's look at the opposite. So the opposite of self-kindness is when we have self-judgment, when we have that nasty inner critical voice that is talking to us not a very kind way. It's perhaps blaming ourselves. It's all about shame, really quite sort of harmful to ourselves in that way. And people who experience weight stigma particularly are likely to internalise this kind of narrative and then use that self-judgmental kind of talk to themselves. So you might say something like, I hate my body, I despise my body, that kind of thing. But self-kindness actually is something that helps us to connect with the ability to accept any flaws that we may have or imperfections, because let's face it, there is no such thing as perfect. We all have flaws and imperfections, and it's accepting that will help to reduce that self-criticism. Be really useful to just remind yourself that you are more than this experience that you're feeling, and you have many things to offer. It can be really difficult for some people. I know that when I'm working with people, they say I find it really hard to show that self-kindness to myself. And so we try to think about how you might show that compassion, that kindness to a really good friend. What might you say to them? And then you can bring that in when you're thinking about yourself. What might I say to a friend who speaks about herself in that way? And do the same for yourself. The second area is called common humanity, and the opposite of common humanity is isolation. And this is when feeling singled out as someone who is the only person that experiences this. Everyone else finds it easy. Everybody else finds it easy to eat in a balanced way. Why is my body in this way? Why can't I lose weight? A lot of things that come up. I know when I speak to people, feel very alone in their pain. So common humanity is actually that sense that they're feeling, often there's a feeling of failure involved in this, right? And that feeling of failure is basically shared by all humans in different areas. And there's a really nice description of pain that I'm going to read out to you. Pain is really there as evidence that you have loved or cared for something, and it's part of every human experience. That connection with others, where you bring back the common humanity bit, the connection with others is so important. Even if it's not in a physical sense, even if it's in a group such as this, where you know you are sitting in this group perhaps listening to this video amongst other people who are sharing your same challenges and experiences. And that can be really empowering to know that you are not alone. To say things to yourself like, feeling this way is really common. Everyone has felt similar or felt this way before. The third area is mindfulness. Now, you've probably heard a lot about mindfulness, and mindfulness is so key in so many aspects. You know, we learn about just general mindfulness, mindful eating, for example, all different areas. But the mindfulness in this situation is about putting distance between your thoughts and yourself, whereby the thoughts begin to create realities, because we know that thoughts are not facts. And this is something I talk about a lot. Thoughts are not facts. Those thoughts are coming from years and years of deep-rooted beliefs about yourself, about weight, about dieting, about body image. Your mind creates these constant thoughts, and often in this area they're not very helpful. So if you can put your distance between the thoughts and yourself, you're paying attention to the present and the present experiences that you're experiencing with sort of almost with curiosity rather than the self-judgment. So for example, if you think you're feeling sad and frustrated, you can say to yourself, I notice that I'm feeling sad and frustrated. And that's a very, very subtle difference from I'm feeling really sad and frustrated and angry and whatever. There's a subtle difference between saying, oh, I'm noticing that is what I'm feeling. It can be quite powerful, again, with the thoughts that you're having. If you say, for example, I hate the way I look, to yourself, you notice that that's coming up, then you can say to yourself, I notice that I'm thinking that my body is awful, for example. That is a thought, not a fact. So you trying to separate the I notice that I'm thinking that from it is that. So there is a very subtle difference, but it does make a difference if you can start to get yourself thinking in that way and speaking to yourself in that way. So you're kind of sitting with that feeling. It's the feeling rather than I am this feeling and embodying it. So you're kind of just sitting with it and sitting with uncomfortable feelings and noticing uncomfortable thoughts is not comfortable, but that is okay. It's okay to sit in that discomfort for a bit. It will go, but it's really important to acknowledge and sit with it rather than trying to maybe push it away. For people who using food to soothe themselves, that might be something they're trying to push away, but it's better to try and sit with it and feel it and allow it to dissipate over a little bit of time, and that really helps you to move forward. So there's 3 areas of self-compassion are self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. So if you can start to think about those, I think that will make a big difference to cycles that you're stuck in around eating food, and or even if you are using food as restricting food as a way to control things in your life. It's really important for whichever sort of eating behaviour you're really struggling with at the moment. I would love to hear what you find useful. If is there something that you're already doing or you're already working on in this area, please do share it with the group, share it with us. It's always so helpful for other people to hear what's working for you. Take care and have a really good week.